Dragons. I am Apprentice Lisa.
And I am Journeyman of Varun.
And we're going to talk about a book that, can we even call it new? Came out a month ago. Is that new anymore?
It's new by the time we're recording this. It's new enough.
Yeah. Yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll probably be like 2 months
Yeah,
old.
probably be 2 months old. This...
By any normal standard, that is new.
Yeah.
Which is Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. But, before we get to it, it's been about like a month since we've recorded. How are your holidays?
Yeah.
How was your New Year?
I was gonna say it's our first episode recording in the new year. First episode with some new branding, I believe. The blue branding for our second year. But everything is going good over here. Quiet holiday at the homestead. Just me and my person drinking wine. That's pretty much it. The week of New Year's, so like right after Christmas itself, we got our COVID boosters. And I had no symptoms for the first 2 shots that I got, and now I got the booster shot, and then this is when I was like, oh, I'm feeling weird.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was just for like a day. Yeah, I just slept it off, and then boom, next day it popped up. Oh, I'm feeling all right. The only weird thing was, and my sister had this too. You'll sometimes get a swollen lymph node under your arm.
Okay, so that's what that was. Cause
Yeah.
I got that too.
Yeah, like under your armpit, it's gonna be all swollen, and like some people get, some people don't. But it's on whatever side they
mine
inject
was
you.
like that for like a week. There was like
a couple days. Yeah. That stood around longer than the actual symptoms. Like, yeah. Had one day of just like, ooh, woozy, weird, I'm on holiday, I'm just gonna sleep it off. And the next couple of days were just like, what the hell is this? Until it went away.
Yeah, no, that was scary.
That is a known regular thing.
I didn't know about this. And I got
Just
my
a reaction.
booster. I got my booster on the what are days? Like the 17th? It was a Friday night.
Right before you went on vacation, right?
Yeah. And then yes, Saturday morning I got on a long haul flight.
Yeah. Where did you go?
So I don't know if I had any symptoms or not because I was
you just slept
on
straight
a
through it.
Kind of. I wish I'd slept on that flight, honestly. I ended up playing, they have like little games on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I played some like stupid little airplane game for about 10 hours.
What? You didn't even bring your Switch or something?
I did bring my Switch. I played Phoenix Wright.
Okay.
I finished the second Phoenix Wright game, which is that Justice for All? No, Justice for All is the third one.
I don't remember. I never played any of the Phoenix Wright games.
It was the one where I don't know. What was that trial? Oh, it was like where the chief prosecutor got accused of murder.
Edgeworth. I remember that one.
Yeah, it was where like Edgeworth got accused of murder, and then there was like another case that then like that dovetails into.
That's as far as I know with Phoenix Wright stuff. Eventually, there's this sexual tension between these two, and eventually the prosecutor gets prosecuted himself, and then Phoenix has to defend him.
Yeah, basically. So
and I know more happens after that, but I don't know.
I finished that trial, which is the end of that game, and then I started the third Phoenix Wright game, which is Justice for All.
Mm-hmm. But there's probably only so much Phoenix Wright you could take.
Yeah. No, listen, honestly, I can play I can play Phoenix Wright all day.
Okay.
But like you run out of game pretty quick, so I try to ration it out.
Didn't have like Animal Crossing or something?
I did.
That just keeps
of course,
going
I had Animal Crossing, but I had flattened my island like a year and a half ago, and then I got too overwhelmed to try to like redecorate and rebuild my island because I was trying to like do a bunch of terraforming and move shit around and stuff, and I got like overwhelmed by it, so I just dropped it. And then I like opened my Animal Crossing save again, and then immediately closed it and
It's
opened
like, nope.
Right.
Too much work.
Yeah, exactly. But I did spend a good chunk of my like on the days that we were, because we traveled, despite maybe I don't want to talk about it.
Do you want to say where you went?
I went to the Netherlands, and they, good for them. They instated like non-essential businesses had to close, like the day that we got there, which was my birthday, and that
you brought it. You brought it with you.
Yep. It was like, yes, you're here in a cool, interesting place, but you can't actually do anything. It was the worst Tantalus pit I've ever experienced. But really, how pissed can you be when you're driving around places, you look out the window, and there's sheep. And there's sheep everywhere. And, it was gorgeous, and it was the coldest I've ever been in my life, because I've only ever lived in tropical places. And, on the days that we weren't driving to Germany to be able to do anything, I did play a lot of Animal Crossing. I think I got like another 40 hours on Animal Crossing.
All right. Anything cool in Germany, I guess?
Yeah, we did the what are they called? Christmas market. And a lot of good food, a lot of hot wine, shopping for little trinkets and such. But yeah, it was nice. They go so hard for Christmas. They go so hard for Christmas.
I mean, Christmas, as we understand it, originated there, right?
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. I can't explain it, but it's just it hits different. I don't know.
Okay.
European Christmas really does. They know what they're doing. They're professionals. And I will forever be mildly upset that we don't do Christmas markets out here, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, it feels like I had a really eventful last month. Before even the holiday break from my job, we had a kind of non-production sanctioned company Christmas party kind of thing, and people got in trouble for it. But that was fun. It was one of the most LA things I've done yet, because you walk into a room and there's the people from every department, and you look over and oh, there's so and so's son, and there's the producer and the director and this and that. And
the producer and the director were there, and people got in trouble?
Yeah, I don't know if they were. I'm just saying.
Okay.
But a huge chunk of the crew was there, and I don't know. It was a good time.
Okay.
It was at this nerd bar downtown, Scum and Villainy, if you know it.
Oh.
It was a lovely time. It was a thing. It was to get into the bar, you had to show that you had an invitation. They had reserved the whole bar for this party.
Oh, wow.
So that felt
nice.
very official.
Your first LA moment, someone tries to get in the door and they're
and that was
you're
the
not
same...
getting them without an invite.
Yeah, and that was the same week as the Nightmare Alley thing. Getting to go to an early screening of an indie movie, quote unquote indie movie. It's a Searchlight movie, but it I don't know. I had a very LA December.
Yeah, you had a very LA holiday season.
Yeah, and now I'm back on my working 60 hours a week grind. Yep. Oh. It's great. It's a great time. But the holiday also gave me time to do something that I hate doing, which is
Which is?
homework.
Mmm.
Which brings us to... Bruin, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
In school, were you a good student? What kind of student were you?
I was a good student. I was an honor student.
Like, you did your homework?
Mostly?
Dotted your I's, crossed your T's?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was notorious for not doing homework. And in keeping with that spirit, I've only just kind of skimmed this and watched some YouTube videos and read some reviews. So basically Spark Notes'd it. But you know what? I'm still going to ace the test, and my essay is still going to be the best one in the class. So
that's very in keeping with this Strixhaven book. So let's go ahead and get into it, because I did read most of the book. There's a lot of sections, but it's pretty quick to read, actually.
Yeah.
But yes, so let's give a primer. Let's give just like what the hell this is. So Strixhaven, the newest book as of the time of recording, Strixhaven: A Curriculum of Chaos. It is a half setting, half adventure book. It's not really a source book. I wouldn't buy this if you're looking for a bunch of like new class or race options, which is something I'm going to talk about. But it's set in Faerun, obviously, at Strixhaven University, which is essentially the Faerun equivalent of Hogwarts. Very prestigious magic college, founded by 5 ancient dragons. And yeah, the book is set in the school, the colleges that are part of it, and the kind of small town atmosphere that makes up this whole place. It's essentially a closed, like, little campus ecosystem unto itself.
it's a college town.
Yep. It's UF or UCF for those.
No, not UCF. Oh my god. If it was UCF, it'd be a lot shadier.
Yeah. FSU. It's FSU. For anyone in Florida knows what we're talking about.
Sure.
But
And
yeah.
if you're in New England, it's Georgetown.
Yeah. It's
Or like
essentially
American University. I don't know.
It's essentially a college town. I say it's very Hogwarts. There's a lot of parallels between Harry Potter that I'm going to bring up, but it's age-wise, your characters are usually adults, maybe like late teens, or adults who are going to school for magic. So the 5 colleges that make up Strixhaven are Lorehold. They explore the past and preserve its lessons for future generations. It's also called the College of Archaeomancy. There's Prismari, which is the college that uses the elements to practice the arts, also called the College of Elemental Arts. There's Quandrix, focuses on the mathematics of nature, called the College of Neuromancy. Or numeromancy, not neuromancy. Neuromancer is a different thing. And Silverquill teaches the magic of rhetoric, poetry, oration, and writing, the College of Eloquence. And then Witherbloom harnesses the forces of life and death, called the College of Essence Studies. So, right off the bat, pretty good aesthetics in this place. They've got this is a very lore-heavy book.
Yeah. So basically, they've got the history majors, the element majors, the math majors, the
arts majors,
like, debate kids. The debate kids are like literature majors, and then
the medical,
the weird stoners, philosophers.
Yeah. Each so the way I will talk about the lore a little bit. So Strixhaven, similarly to Hogwarts, is a very prestigious school, so you have to be like accepted to go there. I believe the full curriculum of the school takes place over 4 years. I know that's how long the adventure itself in the book lasts. I guess technically you could stay there longer in the world, but we'll talk about that when we get later on. That's kind kind of a dead end. So you start as a first year, you're essentially doing general studies the entire time. And then the second year, you choose what school, what college you're going to join. So you're all still part of the same overall school, but each college has their own little focus. That's going to give you, what kind of thing that you're going to focus your magical studies on. But the way that this book is structured, no matter what school anyone picks for their subsequent years, there's still always general studies going on. So regardless if you all go into the same house or not, there's always at least one class that's going to bring you all together. And I'm already kind of getting into it, but the way that this book works is that it different from a typical adventure. You're not going into a dungeon and you're not delving into all these dangerous things right off the bat. You're a student, so you have to deal with homework and exams and social links like in Persona, like making friends with NPCs or becoming rivals with them, and going to class. Like going to class is like such a huge part of this module, and eventually as you're gonna go along, stuff outside of the normal curriculum starts to happen, and that's when the adventure side comes out, where you're not just role playing going to class. There's like, a mimic shows up, and it's causing a panic because there's a bunch of first years. They don't know what the hell to do. Versus you guys who are like, let's do something and let's try to stop this mimic. And that's I think that's where the Harry Potterness comes in, where Harry Potter is just my go-to. There's all these different young adult type books where it focuses on them mainly going to school, but then some other thing interrupts that, and then it's part of some larger plots. And we won't go too spoilery on just what that plot entails. But yeah, it's if you're thinking Harry Potter, you're on the right track. There's something else going on behind the scenes.
In my cursory sort of overview of the adventures, it feels like they were trying to do a source book, and then they were trying to do an adventure book, and then they didn't have enough to do a whole one of either one, so
yeah,
they put it all together. So the adventures feel like episodes, and they're like, if you run it the way that the book presents it, there's this sort of time skip from the first adventure happens in the first year, and it's this one sort of moment in that, and then instead of it cascading into the consequences of the things that you just did, it cut to year 2,
a year
and
later.
Here's the next adventure. And then at the end of that adventure, instead of
it's not even
consequences.
I was gonna say, it's not even cut to year 2 and there's the next adventure. It's cut to year 2, start doing the homework and the exams for year 2 until the thing happens.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to bring up because, like I mentioned, it's not structured like a normal adventure. You're role playing going to clubs, or not social clubs, going to extracurricular clubs, being part of a sports team,
or you have your side job,
or a side job, and eventually role playing and rolling to see if you pass or fail your exams for the year. And if you fail, you have to go to summer school and you can't go to clubs. And there's all these mechanics about it's your school life on managing that. You have they give you a report card sort of thing, a handout that every player gets to kind of track their years. And there are bonuses. There are boons and rewards you get for doing well on the exams. You kind of choose what skills you want to use to study with. And then, depending on what the exam is, you have to roll certain skills against them to see if you succeed or fail, depending on how well you studied. And if you succeed, then you get D4s that recharge on every long rest that give you pluses to any sort of rolls that you have. So you have mini bardic inspirations all the time. So that's good. And I think the level progression is pretty good for this book. you start at level 1, and by the end you'll end up at level 10. And like Lisa alluded to, for the amount of content that you've got, that's a pretty quick jump. It does take place over 4 years in the world, but most of that is glossed over because a lot of it is just understood to be we're going to class, we're doing homework, we're doing kind of the mundane
and
stuff. You're not
a lot of it
role-playing
is
that out.
expressed in just like make a roll for it.
Yeah, they give hints on like okay how do you, or not even hints but like they give opportunities of like okay how does your character interact with these NPCs, and you can decide like if you have a good or bad relationship with them, and if you have a particularly good or particularly bad relationship, those will give you different boons or banes, which are little things that can kind of give you little other bonuses. And then what's the other thing? I talked about the exams. You can cheat on the exams. That's the other thing I liked. You can not study, and instead they have a couple different ways that you can cheat. So if you cheat and no one catches you cheating, you just pass. Yeah, you just pass, and you get all the rewards and everything that you would have gotten for studying. But no, you were just that good. Which I like as kind of a Naruto sort of thing when they're all taking like the exam and they realize like I can't answer any of these questions, but the exam isn't to know the questions. The exam is to cheat, which is kind of along those lines. But yeah, they have those mechanics built in. But like I said, if you fail the rolls, or if you get caught cheating, you automatically fail. Then you have to take summer school. It's weird. Like it's a weird thing of just like managing this mini school life, where you might have friends or like romances that happen at this school. That part, like it's interesting. It's definitely interesting to like think about because you're speed running a lot of it essentially, and maybe just role playing out the major moments. But the rest of it is just like there's so much time passing by. And you don't role play most of it. even within the first module, you start off at orientation and it just skips, and the understanding is like it's weeks or months later that the first like exam happens. So you just I think you just decide as a group how much of this are we going to role play out, and then after that, boom, you're the next thing. So technically, you could get through this thing in like 4 sessions. Yeah,
and I think that's kind of what I was getting at is that like if you want to just run it directly as it is out of the book, you can do that. But there's a lot of, let's call it negative space, that you can choose to fill out. Like they have their sort of Quidditch equivalent, right?
They have a couple. It's like Silk Ball. That's the one I remember. But they have a couple different. They have a couple different
like
sports.
Games and sports and games and stuff. And
I will say, but sorry, before you go on, my favorite extracurricular, because you brought it up, is the live action role playing guild. I was like,
yep.
You can LARP in D&D.
You can LARP in your tabletop RPG.
So that's only for the hugest of nerds.
Or you can lift in the Strixhaven Iron Lifters Society.
Yes.
So, it's the it's the Chad Iron Lifter Society. Or you can be in the marching band. But yeah, like Silk Ball is a thing, and then like when you get to it, it's rollies. Decided by a roll.
Yep. Chess club, same thing.
Yeah, a lot of the things. So if you are DMing this, you can choose to flesh that out a bit, fill in some of that negative space, and make something a little bit maybe heart racing and a little bit more exciting out of what the foundation that they gave you. So I think my sort of it's so early for me to start saying like,
well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
to piggyback on that, it's not just like they give you these line items and they're like, "This is the club." They go into detail on like everything. So every part of Strixhaven, every room is described in pretty good detail. Yeah. Every club, every NPC. All
so that's
of that.
that's where this is a source book. This is a source book for this location.
Yeah.
And the things that happen at this location, and then the adventure portion of it, it's like how in any source book they'll have, or like in most source books, have like seeds and suggestions for adventures, using the things in that source book.
Yeah. This one is interesting because most other like modules or source books that I read, they're focusing on adventurers, like people who are already out in the world for one reason or another and doing adventure things. But this one is like you're a student and there are mechanics around being a student and you're going to play that for the next first couple sessions. So that must be such a different like rhythm and feel for a new player coming in. Because yeah, there's always kind of this idea that you're at school, you're kind of safe until some of the bigger adventure stuff starts to happen. It's fairly low stakes versus freaking Wild by the Witchlight. Yeah, you're gonna get stuck in the Feywild or something if you do the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's one of the things I was thinking about. Of just like.
It's definitely very different.
It's very different, and it's in some ways very limited, because, like you said, it's a source book for this location, but it's a school, so you can't stay at school forever. I mean, technically you could, but that might make for a boring D&D campaign unless you guys just want to like role play being teachers or something. But which if you want to do, like, go ahead.
Just a whole party of Hagrids.
Yeah, just like one's Lupin, one's Snape. You all just chose a thing, and yeah, your entire party just became teachers at the school and just never left. That'd be kind of weird, and it's kind of antithetical to the idea of Strixhaven, because most of the idea of Strixhaven is like you're learning magic to like go out into the world and like spread whatever the teachings of your college are, or go use it in some forum somewhere. There's a little part of it of like you can maybe like stay and hone and study after you've graduated, or maybe become a professor, but that's like not really the illustrated point. It's like it's a college to go out in the world and like spread how great not out and out, but like you're supposed to spread how good of an education you got at Strixhaven, because that makes more people want to come to the school.
I think my thing with this book is that, okay, let's say that your friend's DMing their own homebrew world, and like they come to you and they're like, oh yeah, I've got like a basic idea of a lot of the locations on my map, but there's this one place, and they show you this 60-page PDF about one location in their world. And they're like, and then when I'm gonna have my players enroll here, and then this and this and this is gonna happen, and then you're like, bud, good luck with that. Like, sure, yes, you want to focus your. It's definitely an interesting, and like, I love the idea of wizard school.
Yeah.
My character is a wizard school dropout.
Yeah.
I love the idea of wizard school. Like,
I
I'm
thought of you
absolutely
immediately
going
when
to.
I read that bit.
Yeah, like.
I think
I like this idea. It's just like, I think that this. I think when you approach this book, because I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the book. I think it's just something to know when approaching it, is that like there are aspects of it that could be more than just what the book has them as.
I was thinking of like, do you of this being kind of a jumping off point for other adventures, but like the mechanics of it are so different that again, new players coming in, once they get into like quote unquote real D&D, like actual like in the adventuring world D&D, it's the
Yeah.
rhythm is very different. Where big spans of time don't just skip. Sometimes you're playing through a lot of that.
Right.
And
Or at least, you narrate like, okay, we have, a month to before X, Y, and Z event. Are there things that you want to be doing during that time? And then you can like from that you can do a couple of rolls or something, and that could be just a whole session just going, okay, what have you been doing for 3 months?
and also the importance of a single roll, or two rolls, I should say. Every exam is two rolls, and one roll is pass, and one success is pass, and two successes are you're an A student essentially, and that all gives you bonuses and all of that. And my idea of just like if you're a new player coming into this, like the the mechanics and the I keep saying the rhythm. Yeah, the kind of the rhythm and the feel of the game once you go out into the real world. Unless you're playing a very like politicky, really role play heavy sort of campaign. Even if it's like a mix, like a dungeon crawly and role play campaign, you might be thrown off because if you don't have that experience of what regular D&D is like, this sort of thing, it might be a bad introduction, which is what I was kind of going to say. This seems ideal for a group of like very seasoned players. So I think like having a group of like 4 or 5 seasoned players who've already played before, know what sort of character they want to play, ideal for them. And it'll be like 4 to 8 sessions, great stuff, and then it'll be done. And I don't think there's any room really to go from there unless they want to take their characters and do a completely different campaign.
Yeah. This is great for a short run. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going to go through pros and cons. Pros, the setting itself is great. Their descriptions of everything are awesome. You really get a feel of just like what this school is like. And points for thinking about things like accessibility. They mention things like the stairways in the library, the biblioplex, adhere themselves or change themselves, adapt to whoever needs them. So if it's just a regular person, they'll just be regular stairs. But if it's a person who has a wheelchair, for example, it'll become a ramp for them to go up, or an elevator or whatever. That's cool. All that flavor, excellent. The setup itself, great for some standalone adventures. Because each year you can run as its own standalone thing, or you can run all 4 of them as a connective, small, like mid-sized campaign. And the aesthetics are awesome. Like, if you've seen some of the art for the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Just describing the schools, the NPCs, the setting itself is great. That's all amazing. But then it goes into one of my cons. All the setting is great, but you also have to describe all of that to the players. And that's an important thing in the first module. The first orientation bit is a scavenger hunt. You have to give them riddles, and then you also have to describe every single room in the biblioplex that they're in, which is like 10 rooms or something like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot for players just starting out. You've got it's essentially a big lore dump for every different area, every different thing you're dealing with, which again can be kind of much for some players if they're not into like a lore heavy campaign. Other cons, doesn't reinvent the wheel when it comes to creatures and items. There's not a whole lot of I didn't see any too many like new or customized creatures from the stat blocks in there. No, big changing items. Nothing that you probably want to pull into another campaign. And then the exam and relationship rules can be a bit complicated. because if especially for a new player, you're coming in, you have to learn just how D&D works in general, and then you've got to learn, okay, how do these relationship rules work, how do these exam rules work, giving it a slightly higher bar of entry than another book. And then my biggest con, like I mentioned, the setting itself doesn't seem to have a lot of room to grow without the players actually leaving it. Because it's a school, but it's a fairly protected school. Yeah, there's some shady stuff going around in the background, but once that's sorted out, like I can't see big, magical, powerful adventurers who are level 10 or above staying at this school forever. Like, they'd have to leave at some point to go, like, do something in the world and then come back. Like, you could be a teacher, but, like, how are you... you're gonna be a teacher who never went out into the world and did anything? Like, that's... I don't know, from a story perspective, like a storytelling perspective, that's kind of lame, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, I think this is one of the first ones where it's not like, yeah, this is a definite buy. I like the book. I'm not going to say I don't like it, but it's not going to be for everyone, not for every group.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. The aesthetics are great. The world building is great. I just think some of the mechanics require a little bit of creative sort of finagling from the DM who runs this. And like you said, I think that's definitely more for experienced players. I think that if you're a DM who wants to get out, or, just try something different, this is something that you could look at. If you want to just run something short, this is something you can look at. There's definitely a lot of inspiration that can be taken from this, but unlike some other source books and adventure modules, there's not a lot here that you can like pull out and use elsewhere. It's all very reliant on being part of this specific thing. It's not super modular.
This Faerun specific location and all the Faerun specific lore. Like, you could repaint it if you want, but then, like, what's the point? Just create your own setting at that point. Yeah.
I see why it's a source book. But like, it's
not a source. It's not full source book.
It's labeled under source books.
Really?
If you go on D&D Beyond, it's labeled under source books. I thought this was like an
adventure. Oh shit.
It's not an adventure.
Oh,
so this is why I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because it's labeled as a source book, but a lot of the stuff that I was like seeing about it before it came out, like I think like one of the lead writers did like a interview, like a video about it, and really focused on the adventure aspect of it, and I think that's
you would think like they have all these these colleges that you would go to, and like maybe there would be 5 subclasses of magic that wizards or sorcerers or whatever could go into, but that's not really what they do. Going through all of them, there's a lot of flavor around what they represent, and they might be little relics and stuff that you get, but there's no new spells, no new class things.
Because it's a wizard school, yes, but also one of the things that they do is like, you don't have to play a mage class to be able to play this adventure. Or, you don't have to be a mage class. Like, you can be a monk of whatever college. So I guess, like, in that way, they didn't want to... It's a wizard school, but I guess they didn't want to lean so far into it being a wizard school that they cut out... Make it
a wizard-specific,
make it a mage-specific thing where you can only play it if you're a wizard.
I mean, they made a dragon-specific book just now.
Right. I don't like, I don't see a reason why this couldn't have been.
Yeah.
Here's
a
a book about
class.
wizards.
Like wizard, artificer, sorcerer,
Yeah.
maybe druid.
Because, yeah, that would...
all the arcane classes, essentially.
Yeah, because then that would open up, you know, if we're going into, you know, making books that are specific to, like, certain aspects of the game, and that opens them up to, like, maybe, you know, one of the next books could be about martial classes.
Yeah.
You know, your melee classes or whatever. It just...
Yeah, I can see
I really want to like this book. I really want to like this book, but it just...
There's not a lot of meat.
About it.
There's not a lot of meat on the bone to, like... you probably play it once and never revisit it.
It's really a skeleton, and then, like, you know, if you spend the money on it, and then you see how much, like, you would have to build it out to make it really something that you can bite into. Like, then why did you spend $60 on the book? Like, why did I just spend $60 on this book if I'm gonna have to, like, all the stuff that is really interesting to me in this concept? It's like, okay, you've described the colleges and the location and the faculty and whatever, but, like, there are certain things that aren't as detailed in the book that I wish were. And
I wish...
and it's like, well, if I'm going to have to do all that work, I may as well just, you know, homebrew it.
I was going to say...
and
like,
not spend that $60.
The curriculum itself only goes for 4 years, so ideally, I'd want it to be a longer sort of thing. So if they're gonna do, like, Strixhaven is like this big magical place, like, make the studies take more than just, like, what high school takes, because, like, it seems that learning the mysteries of, like, manipulating reality through magic would take longer than, like, 4 years, at least to me.
Yeah.
Or have, like, a postgraduate sort of setting or mechanics or something where you can maybe operate out of Strixhaven, but then go out into the world for adventures to continue your research, and you essentially magical grad school, finding some kind of way to prove your thesis or whatever it is. Like, you know, those are all ideas that I've got, but there's nothing in the book for that. You could also just go off and do some rando adventure. Like, let's go do Strahd after this because, yeah. Like, yeah, it's a kind of a special case. So, yeah. What final opinion? Would you tell someone to buy or pass on this book?
It's complicated. I mean, like, okay, I guess in short, the short version is pass. The long version is give it a look and decide for yourself. Which is like...
I mean, they may be looking to us, like, for the opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, my thing is that, like, just for me personally, I think, like, if you approach it, don't approach it like you approach a source book or an adventure. It's something else. It's a seed of an idea. It's a source book for a specific location, and if that's what you want, go for it. And there are things that you can do at that specific location. It gives you this arc that you can go through here, but don't expect it to play and read like any other of the source books. I just take umbrage with them putting it under source books when it's an adventure. But then, like, if they put it under adventure, I'd also be like, why is it an adventure? This is a source book.
I think adventure more than anything because, like, yeah, it does go into a lot of the lore of Strixhaven, but
Definitely more than half of this.
More than half of the book. Yeah, most of the book is the adventure. So like, yeah, like for me, it would be a buy only if you have a very seasoned group, and they would be into role playing school life.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got the group for it, and yeah, you want essentially a mid-sized campaign, like I said, I can see 4 to 8 sessions of this, and then you're done. There's not really much room for the setting itself to grow, unless the players leave it and then kind of come back, and then maybe things change after that. But the setting itself is kind of static, because once you've graduated from, it's just like any school. Once you've graduated, what do you do in here?
Yeah. I could definitely see a very creative DM taking this, either throwing out entirely or only using elements of the given adventure, ignoring certain mechanics or expanding on certain mechanics and creating their own adventure within Strixhaven.
Mm-hmm.
Using what the book gives you.
Yeah, like I said, if you have the right group, definitely don't buy this as like your first supplemental book. Always get the player's handbook and Dungeon Master Guide first. That's always your foundation. But Tasha's, Xanathar's, even Fizban's, all very good supplements to a regular adventure. Or if you want to get a regular adventure, Wild by the Witchlight, or Wild Beyond Witchlight, even Curse of Strahd, Rise of Tiamat, all those things, great adventure books. This one, kind of middle of both, and it tries to please both crowds, who would want a source book and who would want an adventure book, and it doesn't satisfy either really. Not at the beginning, not without an experienced DM and some experienced players. So yeah, it's good book. Like the content itself, very good, but when and how you would use it limits it, I think, greatly. So
yeah,
mostly a pass unless you've got those specific conditions.
Yeah. Or if you're like me and you like buying the books just to look at the art.
There's that.
Yeah. There's that. Like if you want it for that, it's a 10 out of 10 for that. It's got some really great art. I think the maps are super creative.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it just has a lot of potential, but it needed
All
to be
the lore itself
a
is
source
great.
book and an adventure book. It had to be one or the other.
One or the other. Yeah. You can't really. Like the adventure piece should have been much smaller, and they should have focused on like the colleges a bit more and fleshed those out, and give some actual new player stuff. Even if it's not going to be class stuff like magic or artifacts or boons that they could get from the colleges by graduating from them, or something like something that they could take off into a bigger adventure beyond just like the flavor.
Yeah. It's got great flavor.
Yes, all
it does.
All the aesthetics, awesome.
It just, I don't know. It doesn't land.
It's all sizzle and no steak. Like there's.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
really
keep going back to
equivalent.
Food metaphors, but
it is really the equivalent of being at like Olive Garden and they walk by with the is it Olive Garden? Where do you get like or Chili's where they pass by with the fajita? And like
I don't eat at either of those places.
I don't know. I haven't eaten there in so long. But, you're at a fast casual restaurant. They pass by with the fajita. And then you're like, damn, that sounds so good. And then you order the fajita. But it literally sounds good. And it smells good. Literally, the sound of it is good. And then you actually get it. And it's like, it's fine.
It's all right. Might be a little hungry afterwards.
It's food. It's a little dry.
So I think that's our final call on it. It's a good book, but pass unless you can get it for free from a friend, or you're an experienced player or experienced group. Then it would be, I think, a good investment at that point. But definitely not for new groups starting out. Start out with another regular adventure, and then come to this later on when you kind of want to get a refresh back to level 1 up to level 10, that sort of thing. Any last opinions on college book here.
Do your homework. Stay in school. Or what was it? What was the like, stay in drugs, don't do school?
Okay.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it off on. I should probably do this up at the top more often, but if you haven't already, give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, watch our videos. The algorithm likes that sort of thing. I should probably do that up at the front. But if you made it this far, you get a gold star.
If you made it this far and you haven't decided yet whether you want to subscribe or not, like, you should.
More of this. More of us. Doing
More of
this.
us hemming and hawing over...
We don't want to hate on stuff that's ostensibly good, but we're thinking about it from the DM perspective, and also like a new player plopping down how like $60 for a book, like we don't want to hate, but like this is not a recommend at this point.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I don't love the added. And this is gonna sound so lazy of me. I don't love like the added mechanics because I'm already so overwhelmed with the existing mechanics of D&D that like adding in like
it. I will say
the
like
math
I mentioned,
involved in
there's
interpersonal
a lot.
relationships.
It gets complicated. Yeah.
Don't complicate relationships by bringing math into it.
I can see the reason they did that because there's a mechanical effect for it. But yes, they are putting another layer of mechanics on top of the existing mechanics of D&D. Which, to be fair, they say you don't have to use them. You could they say up at the front, have a session 0, talk to your players, tell them about these mechanics, and see if they would be comfortable using them. So you can technically rip those up, but then you're also like ripping out a good chunk of the game because then a lot of this book is focused on those relationships. So unless you just want it for the RP, you're paying for something that you're never going to use.
Yeah. Honestly, go read some Harry Potter fan fiction. That's my last word.
Oh no! Oh.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I stand by that.
Oh dear. Lisa, I don't even know is there what is a good Harry Potter fan fiction? What's a good one?
I don't know. There's the evergreen classic. Oh God, what is? I can't even.
You
I
don't
can't even
even
commit to my own
remember.
bit. No, listen. Just visit your local fanfiction hosting website and put in Wizard School AU for whatever your favorite piece of media is, and I'm sure somebody has like done a Kirk and Spock Hogwarts AU.
Oh dear God!
And just go read that.
You'll get the same effect.
Yeah. It's just as railroady.
All right. Yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it off. Go read the Harry Potter fanfiction, folks.
Yeah, don't give her any money. Go read fanfiction.
Go read fanfiction. All right.
Goodbye.
Bye, folks.
Oops All Dragons is a group effort. Our show is edited by Noel Hernandez, our theme was composed by Brendan Lyons, and our logo art is by Azif On Q. Links to more of their work and their social media will be in the show notes.